So I've heard back from you that a number of you don't have access to tripods right now, and furthermore, a few of you who are going to be shooting on smartphones need to start thinking about ways to rig and support your camera. So I just wanted to show you a couple possibilities for things you might want to try and ways that you can get creative with camera rigging. My goal with these is to come up with something that is easy to accomplish at home without a lot of specialized equipment, using mostly just stuff that you can find around the house. So for rigging up your smartphone, you're probably going to need to use something to fasten it to other stuff. In my case, I'm using a lot of tape for things. Now, you might be tempted to reach for the duct tape when you do this, but duct tape is not a great option for a number of reasons. One is that it has a tendency to peel paint off of walls, which is not great, and also it's got a very gummy adhesive that tends to leave residue behind when you remove it from phones or cameras or other stuff. The adhesive tape that camera professionals prefer is this black stuff called gaffer tape. This is really great if you have it, but you probably don't have it, and it's not something that you can just go to the store and buy. Also, it's very expensive, and I'm running out of mine, so we're going to come up with a different option. The tape that I'm going to be using today is masking tape or painter's tape. You can get this at hardware stores. You can probably get it at like Walgreens, I would bet. It's not particularly sticky, so you'll need to use a lot of it, but it doesn't peel paint off of walls and it doesn't leave any residue behind. So our first camera rigging job here is that I want to set it up as a stationary shot that I can walk into. Probably the easiest way to do this is to just tape your phone to the wall. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to start the phone recording, because once it's taped to the wall, there's going to be no way to get at the screen to control it. And we do want to use the rear-facing camera because the selfie camera on my phone is not as good as the rear-facing camera. And then I'm just going to hold it up to the wall at about eye level, and I'm going to put some painter's tape on there to attach it to the wall. I want to be sure and use plenty of tape because, as I said, it's not particularly strong stuff. And I wouldn't want my phone to fall off and smash to the floor below. So it's generally a good idea to err on the side of caution and add more tape than you think you need in order to hold up your phone. And never walk away from your phone if you've got it taped up somewhere. It's always good to keep an eye on it. Once I'm done, I want to be careful with peeling the tape off of the wall. It will not peel paint off, but it's still a good idea to do it kind of slowly. You can stick it to a clean, non-porous surface like a window or a refrigerator or something, and you can reuse it until it stops being sticky. Another way you can set up a phone really easily to frame up a shot would be to lean it up against something. Here I'm leaning it up against a coffee mug to get a low-angle shot, but I could set that mug on a counter or a shelf and get the same kind of support. If your phone isn't in a case, it may want to slip and fall down. But I've got a little bit of sticky tack material, like for hanging posters. Just a couple blobs of that on the bottom edge of the phone are enough to keep it from slipping around. So I thought I'd take this as an opportunity to show the way I shot that last thing. I couldn't get my tripod low enough to the ground, and I didn't have a hi-hat or anything, so I just set it up on a pillow and used the squishiness of the pillow to kind of push the frame into the right spot that I want it to be in. If you're working with a DSLR, setting up your camera on a bookshelf is a great way to securely put it in place so that you can walk away from it. While we're talking about DSLRs, we can talk a little bit about hand-holding. There are right and wrong ways to hand-hold a camera. Here I'm demonstrating a wrong way. You can see my elbows are way out from my sides, and I'm holding the camera very far away from my body. This results in very, very shaky footage. A more appropriate way to hand-hold a camera like this is to squeeze your elbows to your sides, hold the camera as close to your chest and to your center of mass as you can. If you're panning, you should turn your whole body with your camera. If you're going to be moving, practice your camera walk. See how steady you can keep yourself as you move. This little thing is called a string tripod. I made it using a 1/4-inch eye bolt. You can get these from pretty much any hardware store. And a length of string. I've also added a nut and a washer to this just for ease of use, but they're not purely speaking necessary for this to work. So I'm just going to screw this bolt into the tripod thread on the bottom of my camera very, very gently, And the moment I encounter any resistance at all, I'm going to back it off just a little bit. It is a danger with homemade tripod rigging things like this that you could punch through the bottom of your camera. So you want to be very, very careful not to screw anything in with too much force. And then I'm just going to put my foot through the string at the bottom. Then I'm going to put through my other foot and stand with my feet apart so that the string forms a triangle. Now the trick and the way this works to stabilize the camera is through tension. I'm going to pull up on the camera, and that will provide the necessary stability to get some pretty smooth shots. You can use this to stabilize a camera that's just stationary, pointing in one direction, or you can even use it to stabilize panning and tilting, provided that you keep that tension up on the string. But let's get back to phone rigs, and let's try a couple really wacky things. I've got here like a Swiffer mop that I grabbed from the kitchen. It's got a longish handle, so I'm just going to tape my phone to this mop handle, making liberal use of my painter's tape. It can be a little difficult to operate the screen once it's all taped up, but it was eventually possible. And then I'm just going to start my recording and swing that mop handle around like a lightsaber and see what I can do with it. This isn't particularly stable. I wouldn't say that it's any more stable than hand holding, but it does allow you to get some unusual perspectives and some camera moves that would otherwise be impossible. One other thing that I tried was mounting my phone to the blade of a ceiling fan. I can't tell you why I tried this. I just thought, ceiling fans move pretty smoothly. So the first thing I did was cleaned the fan blade. No tape in the world will stick to dust and dirt, nor will any tape stick to wet surfaces, so make sure that it's nice and dry before you attempt this. The fan blades are at an angle, so I needed to make a little spacer out of a wadded up plastic bag that I just taped onto my phone. And then I taped my phone onto the fan blade, and I used lots and lots of tape on this. There's no good reason to skimp on tape when you're taping your camera up somewhere very high or somewhere very precarious. Just to be very clear, I would not recommend running your fan even on its lowest setting with this camera taped on here. I think it's vastly unbalanced now, but once it's taped on there, you can give it a little push and send it spinning at a low but still readable speed. I think if the fan were running even on low, it would be spinning too fast for the camera to really resolve anything other than a weird blur. I don't know what this kind of shot would be useful for. I just wanted to show it as an example of the kind of improvisation you can do with such a small camera. In a lot of ways, it is really liberating to work with a camera like this because it can get into some really unusual places, and it's light enough that you can just tape it to things. So as you work on your projects, think about some unexpected places that you could attach a phone to make some unexpected images.